don't!
Dad's army is stalking the enemy.
Now, what we've got to do is to make the ram think that we're perfectly normal.
That's going to be a bit difficult.
You won't interfere unless it's absolutely necessary, Wilson.
Yes, I do believe you like butter.
What? Oh, don't be ridiculous.
A battle of wits for Dad's army. Classic comedy. Tomorrow at 7 on BBC1.
No!
Eating conch fritters in the Florida sunshine or hiking through the Welsh countryside, a couple of the holiday options being explored now by BBC 2's travel show.
Resnick returns for a taste of rough treatment.
I know what you're thinking. We won't hurt you.
Shame they found the curl.
Do you think they threatened her? Told her what to say?
Who is this?
The guy you saw first. Can you describe him?
Perhaps we should go over what happened.
Dark Secrets of a Detective. Resnick, Rough Treatment. Sunday, 9:05 on BBC1.
Well, now on BBC One, Nick Ross with another look at the human cost of crime.
In Crime Limited tonight, the young mum whose cool head in a crisis helped to save her baby and herself. What happened when the custom of the sea came into conflict with the law of the land. And meet the family who campaigned against the law which freed a man to murder their daughter.
Good evening. Millions of us will be involved in a traffic accident at some stage in our lives. Cars, by their very nature, are pretty dangerous things. But what happened to one driver, Julie Greatrix, was so unusual, so completely unexpected, that nothing could have prepared her for her experience. How well would you react if confronted by a crisis that could mean life or death?
It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic that somebody can violate you in this way and more or less get away with it, put it behind them, forget about it. But the victim has to live with it for the rest of their lives. I actually first noticed him when we pulled into the car park and we parked the car, and I happened to look up and he was standing opposite the car over by the wall.
Mummy needs a ticket to put on the car.
I thought when I first looked at him that he was probably just waiting for somebody.
Makes a funny noise, doesn't it?
And then afterwards I thought probably he was more looking towards stealing a car, maybe mine or somebody else's.
Have you got the time, please?
Oh, yeah. It's 20 past 11. Get off! What do you think you're doing?
Get back in the car, or I'll hurt the baby.
All right, okay. All right.
I couldn't just put everything straight into the car. I mean, I had to put David's pram into the back of the car. I had to strap him into the seat. You know, I couldn't just drop everything and just go and leave him sat in the pram.
Hurry up, will you? Stop playing for time.
I can't find the keys. I don't know what I've done with them.
I really couldn't find the keys. Eventually I found them and we got in the car and he wanted to strap David in.
No, I'll do it. I know how to do it.
And this guy obviously had no idea of what he was doing as far as children were concerned.
Look, what's this all about? Do you want money? I've got some money. Or do you want the car? Here's the keys, take them. Just leave us here and take the car.
No, just get driving.
When we drove out of the car park, there was a woman parking her car opposite, and I considered ramming her car as another option of maybe trying to get away from him. But it was a woman driving the car. I needed to find a stronger person. It had to be a man.
Don't panic. Calm down.
What the hell do you expect?
Right, pull over. I'll drive. Just pull over. Here.
I made sure that I took the keys with me when we swapped over drivers, because if I'd have left them in the car, for all I know, he could have just driven off with David in the back of the car.
Where are we going? Where are you taking me? Are we going to Winchester?
No.
Southampton?
No.
Well, where? How far are we going? Are we going a long way?
Yes.
That was really frightening. I mean, we could have been going anywhere. We could have been going Scotland, you know, London, absolutely anywhere. I tried very hard to have a good look at him without making it too obvious to him. Things that he was wearing, marks on his face. Hopefully when we got out of the ordeal at the end of it, we would be able to give the police a good description of what he looked like. The worst time was when we actually drove off of the motorway and down to the small country lanes. I think that confirmed my worst fears, that he had a sexual motive in mind, and I have visions of ending up in a ditch somewhere. I thought, this is it, my time is up. At that point I realised that I needed to have a plan of some sort. I'd really got to the stage of desperation.
The baby's going to need some food, you know. Hasn't been fed for ages.
Can't he wait? It won't kill him.
No! If he wakes up, he'll be all grumpy. He'll start crying. He'll need feeding to keep him quiet.
Okay, okay, we'll get food.
I needed to find a shop that was big enough, that would have a lot of people in there, basically some stronger men in there.
No, that's no good. They probably don't sell baby food there. Maybe there'll be one in the next village. There's got to be around here, something around here somewhere.
A lot of people said they'd be absolutely hysterical if anything like that happened to them, but everyone's basic instinct is survival. You've got to remain rational, basically because it's my life that's on the line and the life of my child.
There, that'll do. They're bound to have something. We're both going in then?
Yeah, of course we are. We leave the baby in the car.
No! No way, I'm not doing that.
We lock the door. He'll be okay, come on.
I'm not leaving the baby. He's got to come with me.
He'll be okay. Okay, I'll carry him.
No! No, you're not taking him. He's not your child. I'll see to him. I won't try anything silly, please. Let's just...
Okay, let's get some food.
I was so relieved to get out of the car, where it was a situation just me and him, and into a shop where there were more people. But I thought I could be pushing my luck too far here. He's trusted me so far. This may not work.
Come on.
In the last few seconds before I actually did it, it was make or break. This is it. I have to do it now, or else I'll never get away.
Help! Help me! He's threatened me with a knife. He's taken us in the car.
It was such a relief to get out of it alive in one piece. Both David and I, we were okay. We were very shaken by it all, very upset by it. I just stood in the shop in tears. I just didn't know whether I was coming or going. It was just relief to get away, and the ordeal was over.
A few days later, the police recovered Julie's car.
I just stood and looked at it, and I didn't want to get in it. It looked dirty, it felt dirty. It actually violated my space. I mean, it was my little area, and it just, ugh. I decided that I was going to wash the car, and I don't mean just give it a quick flick with the sponge, I mean wash it. I literally disinfected it from top to bottom.
Eastleigh Police, can I help you?
5 days later, police were summoned to another local car park. A man had threatened two women who'd quickly locked themselves inside their vehicle.
You're under arrest on suspicion of abduction. You're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so.
Dharminder Opal spent 6 months in prison before trial. He pleaded guilty, but because he'd served time on remand, he was almost immediately released.
I don't think the law really realised what an ordeal it was for me. You know, I don't feel justice has been done at all. He's now free to get on with his life, whereas it's still bugging me all the time. I know it's something that happened quite a while ago now, but it's something that affects your life so dramatically. I mean, it sounds stupid, but you view every person as a potential attacker.
Can I give you a hand?
No. No.
It's no trouble. I know how they work.
No, we're fine, thank you, really.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Automatically, I can feel myself backing away from somebody as if they're a threat. Every guy that I see in the street, I feel as though they could do something as awful as that. It just makes me feel so insecure, it really does. Unless it's actually happened to you, you can't understand how the victim feels after all this. It's just so difficult to go out on your own. It's like a hurdle that you've got to get over. I don't go out anywhere on my own. I don't trust anybody. It just affects your self-confidence so much.
Julie Greatorex is one among a tiny minority of women who've gone through an experience like this. Yet, as Julie says, these handful of offenders have caused more grief than they could ever have imagined. If you need to overcome the effects of crime, victim support may be able to help. Local groups are listed in the phone book, or you can call this number 071 735 9166. That's during office hours, 071 735 9166.
Each week on Crime Limited, we feature a landmark case, a crime that set a precedent. The one we explore tonight took place so long ago and in such extreme circumstances it may seem to have little relevance to us today. But the facts of the crime and the trial that followed were so extraordinary and so significant, they're still quoted in court and routinely taught in law schools.
Four men, adrift in a tiny boat, their state so miserable as to bear little resemblance to human existence. Famine, despair, cold, thirst, crippled and aching with pain. In those conditions, even ordinary, God-fearing men will do terrible things.
Captain Dudley. Edwin Stevens.
I have a warrant here regarding certain allegations brought against you by the captain of the vessel that picked you up. Edwin Brooks, there will be no charges brought against you. You're free to go.
If you'd like to come with me, gentlemen.
All we've done is the same as any other man would do. It's the custom at sea.
I know that, and so do the people of Falmouth. But the law must have its say. I'm sorry.
Thomas Dudley and Edwin Stevens. You are together charged that on the 25th day of July, 1884, you did commit willful murder upon the high seas. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
You left the islands of Cape Verde and found yourselves in the heart of the South Atlantic storm.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And now tell the court what happened next, Mr. Stevens.
Well, we were in heavy cross seas, sir. The captain had ordered me to the tiller lines, and I was the only one on deck when the wave rose. We were sinking from the very second that it hit us.
Go on.
The captain ordered us to lower the dinghy. We only had moments to board her and be clear away. The gale blew out with the dawn. We were alive, but not much more.
The boy's almost shivering to death. He's hard enough. Brooks, he knows the sea as well as you or I, Tom. How long do you reckon we can wait? Wait?
What did you do for food and water?
We had some tinned vegetables. When a few days in, Brooks caught a turtle. For drink, well, we'd hold out our oilskins in the rain and catch what we could. As things got worse, we drank our own water.
When did you run out of food?
After 2 weeks, there was nothing left. The captain had rationed what we had, but there were
But you had ceased to think like Christian men.
We had no choice.
You know, we must soon choose one of us.
Oh, no, Tom.
And if we don't, we must do something. We can't just lie here and rot. Look at him. How much longer do you think he'll survive?
Captain Dudley, when did you first suggest murdering Richard Parker?
My lord.
Mr. Charles, you will rephrase.
My lord. Captain Dudley, when did you first consider killing your cabin boy?
We'd been adrift 20 days. We ached with hunger and thirst. I knew that soon we must eat, or none of us would survive. There is a custom at sea.
I know all too well about the cruel custom of the sea. Just tell us what you did.
I thought that soon we should draw lots. I made the lots. I trimmed splinters from the gunwale, one shorter than the rest.
But you never drew them, did you?
No. Parker was so weak, I reckoned he only had a couple of days left in him. So I decided it should be he.
He's dying, I'm sure of it. We cannot do it, Tom. Brooks will have none of it. Let him stay out of it. You have a wife and 5 children. I have a wife and 3. We'd not be the first to do this, Ned. If you don't have the courage, I'll do it myself. God have mercy on me. Hold his legs.
I woke him, and I said, Richard, your time has come. He simply said, what, me, sir? And then it was done. We survived another 4 days by eating his body and drinking his blood.
I have no further questions, my lord.
My dearest wife, again today the gentlemen of the court have struggled to understand the ways of men at sea. They cannot understand the way we spent those days adrift. How may anyone who has not suffered as we did, and felt life ebbing away as we did, hope to understand how men change and what men may do?
There seems to be no dispute on the facts of this case. The men have clearly admitted that they killed and ate the boy, but they have pleaded not guilty to the charge of willful murder. Mr. Collins, I presume you have an argument to make.
Indeed we have, my lord. This is the first time that such a case has come to trial under the English law, a case where the alleged offence we would contest is not willful murder, but is a killing justified by necessity. 4 men, adrift in a tiny boat, their state so miserable as to bear little resemblance to human existence. Famine, despair, cold, thirst, crippled and aching with pain. In those conditions, even ordinary, God-fearing men will do terrible things. These men did only what was necessary to save their lives. Without that awful food, they would all have died. Now, if necessity compels a man to do an act to save his own life and the lives of his crew, can we call that willful murder and send him to the gallows? No. These men have suffered enough.
There is, we have heard, a custom at sea that lots should be drawn to choose who must die. Captain Dudley did not draw lots. It is argued in cases of necessity that the weakest must go to the wall. Well, I don't accept that as the law in England. This was not the sudden act of a man in fear for his life, nor was it the act of a captain, a leader, caring for his crew. This was the measured and calculated killing of a boy, Richard Parker, a boy in your care. Captain Dudley lifted a knife and ordered his crew to hold that boy to the deck while he stabbed him to death. And what defense does he offer? He asks you to excuse him on the grounds of necessity.
Now the trial was over, the jury was directed to decide the facts and not the verdict, The case was so important that the judge referred the issue to a higher court, the Queen's Bench Division. The decision took several days, but the men still lived in hope when they were called to hear the verdict.
As a civilized and Christian people, we cannot treat this case except as the most barbaric of capital crimes. The law cannot allow a man to claim he had to kill another. If once we set that precedent, then how many men in court would argue that the temptation was too great to resist? We will be asked to measure the value of one human life against another. You have been convicted of the crime of willful murder. You shall be taken to a prison, and on a day appointed for the purpose of your execution, will be hanged by the neck until you are dead.
The legal principle was set. Necessity can never be a defence to murder. But there was great sympathy for the seamen, and 6 days later, Queen Victoria granted a reprieve. Freedom is precious, and it's one of the duties of the courts to protect our civil liberties. But where should the balance lie between the liberty of the accused and that of the potential victim? Our next case involves a terrible injustice. It resulted from a decision of the sort that magistrates are asked to make hundreds of times a day. Should someone charged with an offence be put in prison till the trial, or should they be released on bail?
Oh, there's one at St Mary's, school photograph.
Oh, that smoky smile.
You know what that is?
It's First Communion, wasn't it?
Yeah, First Communion. Oh, that was their
That
night
was a
out.
stag night, yeah.
No, stag night.
That was on a stag
Hen
night.
night.
That was a lovely one, that one, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Mm.
I could have taken Anna's death, but I can't take the horror. The last face Anna saw was that violent heap of filth, and that's what we've got to live with. And the authorities allowed that to happen, and that's what gets me. All of them.
The serious allegations of rape facing Mr. Hagens are that at 2 a.m. last Sunday, the victim, a 20-year-old single woman...
In August 1991, while Anne McGurk prepared for her first wedding anniversary, a man called Andrew Hagen was appearing before Cheltenham magistrates with an application for bail. He'd been charged with the rape of a young woman.
This is clearly a serious matter, and we most strongly oppose bail in this case. To understand why, we would like the bench to note the defendant's antecedents. As you'll see, your worships, the defendant was released from custody exactly 1 month ago.
In fact, Andrew Hagen had 26 convictions, including 5 for sex offences and 3 for possessing an offensive weapon. He'd just come out of prison for burglary and assault.
It is a mark of our opposition to bail that we have called to the court the police officers concerned with the case. Detective Sergeant Rice.
I can confirm the list of previous convictions.
Despite the strong police objections, the defence put up a vigorous argument for bail. The case against Hagen was weak, they said, and he hadn't been convicted of a sex attack since adolescence.
The Crown has dredged up convictions which are 9 years old. The defendant was just 16. It was part and parcel of a phase he was going through. Andrew Hagens is now 25 years old. He's not likely to commit similar offences again. There is a bail hostel place available, and the probation services say it operates a suitably strict regime. I therefore submit that bail should be granted in this case.
All rise.
When the bench retire to reach their decision, it's really a case of hold your breath. We'd done enough, I felt, to achieve a remand in custody, but you can never be sure that the bench is going to do what you think, and the decision that is eventually made is beyond our control.
We're prepared to grant you conditional bail. You must reside at the bail hostel in Gloucester and comply with all of its rules. Bail has been granted because the conditions imposed are considered sufficient to prevent further offending.
Andrew Hagen, with a history of sexual offences, burglary and assault, was effectively a free man. Hagen's bail conditions were that he must stay in the hostel overnight from 11 until 7, attend one weekly residence meeting, and stay away from Cheltenham where the rape had taken place. Beyond that, he was at liberty to come and go as he pleased.
I'm off out.
We don't see what purpose bail hostels serve. I mean, they're a bit cheaper than keeping them in prison. But surely someone up there has a moral obligation to protect the public. They don't protect them by putting violent offenders in bail hostels where they're free.
Excuse me, have you got a time, please?
No, sorry.
Do you work around here?
No, I don't.
He was stalking women all the time, just waiting for one to appear on her own.
Excuse me, you got a time, please?
It's 3:30.
So where are you going now, then?
One woman became so alarmed, she called for help.
Hello, police. There's a man on the path to the Castlemead car park. He's been hanging around there all day. I think you should send someone along.
Oh, it's you, is it, Hagens? What you been up to?
Nothing, why?
There's been a complaint you're bothering people.
I ain't doing nothing.
Let's have a look, then. Turn your pockets out for me. I think you better stop hanging around here.
Look, I'm waiting for somebody, ain't I?
OK, we'll stop
Police
making
were there.
a
The police were with him minutes before.
stay away
You know,
from
the
the
policeman had been with him about 10, 15 minutes before, and he was left there still to do what he did.
In fact, the next woman he accosted was Anna McGurk. The officer left Andrew Hagen near the bridge at Gloucester Docks. 15 minutes later, Anna walked across the river from the council offices where she worked to an employee's car park. Hagen grabbed her from the causeway and raped her underneath it. Anna was walked at knife point along the bank of the river. She was strangled and her body left in undergrowth. Andrew Hagen was the obvious suspect, and when he was picked up next day, he'd been trying to sell Anna's wedding ring in the hostel where the magistrates had sent him.
What the magistrates done on that particular day, they give that Hagen's a license to kill, and it's as simple as that.
Everything he did was a good reason to keep him locked up. He was violent, he used a weapon, he was likely to abscond. I mean, everything was there written in that bail act. Every reason why he shouldn't get bail, and yet they gave him bail. I wrote to the Chancellor, I wrote to the Shadow Chancellor, I wrote to anybody that I could think of that I thought should know this.
The serious allegations of rape...
Kay also wrote hundreds of letters to MPs. As a result, there's a bill now going through Parliament which would give the prosecution the right to appeal against bail in cases similar to this one.
I think if my bill had been in force at the time, Anna would still be alive, because I'm sure that the police would have appealed the magistrate's decision to grant bail, and I'm also sure that a judge of the High Court or the Crown Court on that appeal would not have granted Hagen bail in those circumstances.
Thanks to the Potts campaign, the bill has all-party support and looks well on its way to the statute books. Kay won't give up until it gets there.
I mean, I've had people say to me, who do you think you are? And I say, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, but nobody's going to murder my daughter. And all the things that were wrong, allow it to happen. It was allowed to happen. I think that's the only word I can say. I mean, she was murdered so that she couldn't complain. I'll complain for her. And I'll complain probably for the rest of my life.
Next week on Crime Limited, meet the man who drove a bomb to blow up Downing Street. And meet the father who lives in fear of his son, a murderer. So join us then for more on crime and the people whose lives it has affected. Good night.
she perfected her skills, the water was purified in the mountains.